My guest today is Cary Bowman. Cary is a friend and neighbor at our home in Mexico, and every time I'm with Cary, I learn something new and unique about him. I knew Cary would be a great zero to proof guest because of his insights and perspective on life, priorities, and success. Cary studied archaeology, but he realized that pursuing that passion wouldn't bring him the other parts of his life that he valued. His wife wasn't going to be on that journey with him. He discovered he enjoyed finance. He built a successful career in investment banking and wealth management before walking away from that very successful career to build something of his own. When a friend and client won the lottery in Saskatchewan, they decided to start the first distillery in the province in almost 100 years, although none of them had any background in that industry. What came out of that is Lucky Bastard Distillery. The name came out of the fact that they felt like they were all lucky bastards for having won the lottery. They built an irreverent brand and personality. They've scaled from a small startup into a meaningful business that's widely recognized, and he has intentionally designed it to support a different kind of life. While that business grows, Cary has expanded into other areas he finds intriguing and exciting, including software development, again, with no background. What makes Cary unique is that he didn't just build a company and a life. He built it around a philosophy, optimizing for time, flexibility, and control instead of just growth or income. In this conversation, we talk about how that shift, about how definitions of success change for him from external markers to personal ones, and how he designed a business that wouldn't consume his life. We also get into building and trusting teams, the trade-off between scale and freedom, and why curiosity continues to drive what he does next, including building AI-driven products despite having no technical background. This is a conversation about designing your life, taking back your time, and redefining success on your own terms. Cary, welcome. Good to see
Thank you.
you virtually, even
Great to
though
see you.
physically you're not far away. And so, what I wanted to start with was just as we discussed, sort of the journey that got you here, some of the moments along the way where you realized it was more important to try something different than to keep on the same path you've been on. Some of the key relationships in your life that really enabled you to kind of build the life you have, and then where you are now. So if you just start
Start
wherever.
at the beginning, hey?
Start at the beginning. Yeah.
Well, let's where do we go? It's been an
Yeah.
interesting journey, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I have always wanted to be Indiana Jones. That is my underlying reason maybe for living or whatever the case may be. So I got a degree in archaeology. And then the first job I was going to take was going to pay $11 an hour. And at the same time, I'm also very driven by money and had those motives to I wanted a fancy lifestyle and things like that. So then I got into the world of investment banking and I had a career in
So wait a
that
minute. So
for a
you
number.
transitioned from an archaeology student with
Yeah.
a path of making $11 an hour, might be 11 Canadian,
Yeah.
to I'm going to go into investment banking. So that's
Yeah.
that's
Well, it's a little,
that's how.
there's a little bit more nuance to it and a little bit more
But
in between. I
But
started
that's what's
working on,
important because
yeah.
I think a lot of people end up feeling, I don't know if I'd say trapped, but constrained. I've spent all this time, I've invested in learning how to do something, God, to go retrain and take the risk that I might not just. So don't just brush over what's a pretty big career shift
Yeah.
in priorities. Kind of talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, it was, this is oh God, this is like the early 90s. So I just finished my first degree in archaeology and was super excited. I was going to go, obviously be Indiana Jones and, buying the hat and the whip and all sorts of jazz. Realize that it's not really what it was cracked up to be. I would have had to go move to Egypt or Jordan. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife Tamara, not so eager to live in Egypt or Jordan. So my first job was going to be with the Royal British Columbia Museum in Victoria, BC. And I was putting myself through school, working in jobs in restaurants, right? So doing the typical route
Me too.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
being a server and being a server in a tourist town like Victoria, you made a lot of money. Like you'd make $500 in a couple hours worth of work. Like it was pretty incredible. And so taking a very huge down pay. So decided to finish up another degree in political science, and I was going to chase a law degree. Basically took a summer internship with an investment company. A friend's parents had this investment company. Started working with them. Realized I was actually really good at it, and I really enjoyed economics and finance and things like that. which eventually led me to a job with the Bank of Nova Scotia, which is one of the big five banks in Canada. And that career path basically took me through a bunch of training to be a portfolio manager and things like that, a financial planner. Then inevitably, I became very good at that. And I opened up the private client division on the upper tier wealth management arm of the Bank of Nova Scotia in our city and province. And I had that
Where are
career.
you from? Or,
This is in Saskatoon. Yeah, sorry, I should have probably mentioned
yeah,
that I'm
yeah,
from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada.
yes.
Right now, it's currently very cold there and snowing, and very happy to be at our home here in Mexico. So yeah, so I worked for the bank, had a career, an amazing career. I loved the bank. I loved working with clients. I loved high net worth clients. I loved entrepreneurs, and really, I think that's the start of this chain reaction that kind of changed my life. Was working with these interesting people and interesting
It's
careers
so
and journeys.
So I want to jump in there because one of the things that's come up as a
Yeah.
theme, and you hit it, is it's finding something that you both are good at and love. Something that you are good at but don't love isn't fulfilling, and something that you love but aren't necessarily good at is also not the sweet spot. I learned at an early stage, although I loved music, I was not good at being a musician. But there's a theme there that you were fortunate to find something that kind of hit those three things. You were good at it, you enjoyed it, and it was hitting your objectives of building some wealth. So the combination
Oh,
of those
absolutely.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
still like I still love that world. I love investments. I love investing. I love, creative finance and things like that. But it at the same time, I was, you're chasing those. And I love when I first learned about your podcast and what you're doing and the message you're kind of, that proving you sometimes there's some things you change of what you need proof in your life of, right? And
Yeah.
I kind of found that with working in with these high net worth individuals and entrepreneurs mainly, that they created something. And so I was working for them, these people that created something and or are building something. And, so I'm chasing these status things of success, the driving the fancy cars and looking at how much my paycheck is going up every single month, and, just analyzing or judging my success by that. And then I'm meeting these people who are judging their success by what they're building and how they're building it and things like that. So started kind of thinking about that a little bit. Like, I'm going to say this wasn't a, turn on a light switch and all of a sudden my whole mantra of success and my view of success has changed. Very gradual. So starting to think about these things. And I was kind of thinking about this when, thinking about what we're going to talk about. And one pivotal moment in that sort of era was I read a book by Tim Ferriss called The 4 Hour Work Week. I don't know if you've read this book. To me, it changed my wife Tamara and our lives completely. We were both at that point in time doing very successful, but working for other people. And just that aspect of the changing certain degrees of your life, taking back your time. And that was, I think, the biggest thing I got out of that book was, how do you take back your time? How do you do the same sort of thing you're doing, but take back your time? And that was pivotal, like, to my life, my everything. And I think it maybe, an explosion went off that said, hey, can I do what I'm doing maybe, but in less time, but more efficient, right? And so that
And
changed.
and the other thing you
And
said
that brought
is,
me to
and for yourself, but just before you jump off of this, and for yourself, the theme in there was the shift of kind of doing things for other people. As you said, you got inspired by seeing people who built things, and so it was continuing to do what you love, but figuring out how to do it for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a key thing, is when you're working for, and not that there's anything wrong or bad with working for other people. People build tremendous careers taking care of somebody else's vision, right? And so I was doing that and doing a very good job of it. At the same time, I could have went kind of independent and did my own thing in wealth management And a lot of people sort of do that. But it wasn't in the area that I thought I could be most creative in and build the most. And so all along this while, and my wife, who was a fabulous interior designer, was working for other people. And we read this book and we kind of re-envision our lives a little bit. I'm sure Mexico and tequila had something to do with, late nights of discussing how we're going to build our lives together, right? And at that point in time, we had two baby-ish kids, and we're just kind of re-examining what is the priorities of life, what do we want out of it, how do we create something that's awesome, and it kind of started this spark and this fire to change things. My wife left her job. She put her own sign post on our house and started her interior design firm in our house, which eventually she hired some more interior designers and eventually grew into this company that she has today. At the same point in time, I'm just more, not necessarily do I know what I'm going to go into, but I knew I'm looking for something, right? And so when you're seeing your life a little bit different, your eyes are a little bit more open, you're looking around the world and you're seeing maybe opportunities. And so that took me literally into my first opportunity in entrepreneurship. Was my wife Tamara and I were flying off to Europe, and I read an in-flight magazine, and it was talking about the resurgence of craft distilleries in the US. And I'd never heard of a craft distillery, didn't know if anything belonged in, or had anything in Canada, but I was like fascinated by this story. I'm like, this is like, it sounded so like, I don't know, like kitschy, like old world, I just pictured guys with beards and, and stirring pots and making moonshine or something. You picture like, that sort of Kentucky sort of stills and things like that. So I'm reading this thing. I'm fascinated by this. I'm like, well, this is so cool. Like, it's so interesting. Not thinking that, oh, this could be a business or anything like that. But we went to Europe, and these little tiny craft distilleries, they were everywhere in Europe. They're like little farm gate sort of enterprises. You walk in, you see the person making the stuff, these old, beautiful copper pot stills. And I was hooked. I was like, this is so cool. And we get back home to Canada. I start researching it, find out there's only a handful of these things in Canada, none in our province. Our province didn't even have laws to be able to deal with it. So I started working with the government in Saskatchewan and opened one of the first craft distilleries in Saskatchewan within the next couple of years. So,
And a little bit about that story. But before you run past that is part of this came from a relationship that you had, your co-founders, and the name of the distill. So talk a little bit about that, the origin story there, because one of the themes for a lot of people is these phases in your life also are enabled and empowered by the relationships that you built along the way. And so, talk a little bit about the origin story of your distillery.
It's a very good origin
let you do
story.
the name. Yeah.
So this is 2010, but in 2006, so I'm in Scotia Private Client Group. Client of the bank wins the lottery. So the lottery in Saskatchewan is a Lotto 649. He was a young doctor, literally just out of med school. He was doing what's called a locum. That's where you're a substitute doctor in like rural places. So you're in a small town. The doctor in town needs to go on vacation, so they have to bring somebody from the city, typically a med student or just graduated, to be a substitute doctor while they're on vacation. So he's in this small town and he buys a lottery ticket, and while he's in this small town he discovers, and at that point in time, so this is 2006, like you would look on the TV, would have the lottery sort of numbers. So he's at the hospital with a nurse, and he's looking and he's like, oh my God, I won like he literally won the lottery. But he's in rural Saskatchewan, like, a population of 500 people and no family doctor. So he's stuck there for 2 weeks, even though he won the lottery, which he won 14.6 million. At that time was a big number in lotteries in Canada. And so in the origin story of the distillery is, I come back from Europe. I'm doing all this research. I just decided I want to make a business of this. Mike is now, so it's 2010. Mike is now in the city in Saskatoon. He has opened up a family practice, but he's not enjoying it. Like, and I know this, they became, sorry, I don't know if I mentioned, they became clients of mine after they won the lottery, this $14.6 million. They're now clients of mine. And over that time we formed a really good relationship. We started, dabbling into some real estate deals together, buying houses, fixing them up, things like that with Tamara and his wife, Lacey, and we became friends. And so I know in 2010, I have this idea. I know Mike's not happy with what he's doing. He did not like urban medicine. He liked rural medicine. And so and we now say we're out for cocktails, but literally we're out for coffee. And I said, hey, what do you guys think about this idea? And they're like, we're in. We love it. Like, and I explained the whole thing about starting the distillery. And honestly, the next day we started shopping for real estate to be able to open our first distillery. And then, so along this way, we're building everything, getting everything ready. We don't have a name for it. And we're trying to figure out, what are we going to call this business? And that brings us to the story of Mike's nickname. So after he wins the lottery, he decides they're going to throw a massive party. So he goes to the local liquor store. He buys up all the Dom Perignon that he could possibly get and just fills a grocery cart with it, takes it up to the front. And the lady at the counter is like, oh my God, you must be celebrating something. Like, what can I ask you what it is? He's like, actually, I won the lottery. She's like, oh my God, congratulations. The old cranky lady behind him in line is like, congratulations, you lucky bastard, and very cynical. And so he tells that story to his friends. And of course, we're going to make fun of him. And the nickname Lucky Bastard came up. So as we're searching for a name for the distillery, we're kind of running past all these, typical things like a black cat, like think of a color and an animal and all these sort of things that are happening at the time. And then one of us, I have no idea who's, why don't we just call it Lucky Bastard? It's tongue in cheek. It's, we're going to get slapped a little bit around for using it. Maybe the rate, like advertisers won't like it or things like that. But we're like, that kind of fits our image of like, just having fun, trying to, we have no idea what we're doing. We're just goofing around. So we decided to call it Lucky Bastard. And that name has been phenomenal for us, not only in that it's just funny and people remember it all. When I tell anybody my email address, they're like, what? That's so funny you called it that. We've been in a lawsuit with the trademark office in Canada and going up to maybe the Supreme Court of Canada because they keep denying our trademark. Because the term bastard is immoral, scandalous, and obscene. And the general population of Canada would agree. And so they deny us. So we're in case law all over Canada and the US. It's crazy. Like, so the US, and it's kind of interesting, the US actually used this in repealing their case law that trademarks could dictate morality. And so that was, I think, repealed in the US maybe about, 8-9 years ago. Something like that. So they can't.
So in other words, the prohibition, the prohibition of a trademark like bastard, Lucky Bastard, was repealed. The restrictions were repealed in the U.S.
Yes, but not in Canada. And they use it as a case study for it, right? So it's quite interesting. So we've been, we're never giving up. But at the same time, we get more publicity from that than we could pay for it, right? So it's pretty fun. Yeah. So that's Lucky Bastard Distillers.
Lucky Bastard Distillers, and it's which I think it's luckybastard.ca is the website, and and so this has grown from this little startup idea to something pretty significant. I mean, you got what's your production and size, and you got you go to the website and it's like, wow.
Oh. Yeah,
it's like you got really cool merch. You got a lot, but I mean, you've gone from this little thing which you knew nothing about. None of you knew anything about this business, and not also about the whole branding and retail and promotion and stuff. So, but how it's going pretty well.
Yeah, it's gone very well. It's we went from, I want to say maybe in our first year we probably did 1,000 liters to we're doing roughly 300 and some thousand liters of product a year. We have we have so much product, different types of product. We're very creative in ADHD, and so we come up with new things all the time. Some are good, some are bad, so lots of lessons learned there. But it's a fun business. It's manufacturing it's marketing, it's branding, it is, it's hospitality. It's pretty much every kind of business wrapped in. It's highly competitive, highly
Yeah.
regulatory. Half the time I'm a lawyer fighting with somebody, and the other half the time, we're working on how to be, marketing geniuses. And
Yeah.
I don't know if we're good at anything, but we do practice it all.
Wait, 1,000 to 300,000, you're good at. You're
Yeah, yeah,
obviously, you guys are
yeah,
pretty good at something. I think the other thing
yeah.
you have done with that business is you've designed a life model around it so you can be in different places, And so
Absolutely.
what I've found is a lot of people, they'll deeply passionate about starting something, but very often that takes over their life. An unintended consequence. The beauty and the wonder and the power is you're building something. You're creating. You're doing something. On the other hand, it's you're there wherever the there is. 70 hours a week, and so you've managed to build an integration of a life model with a work model. So talk a little bit about how that happened, how your partners got okay with that, because otherwise you've solved one problem and not the other.
Yeah, exactly. And quite honestly, by design, there has been, and not a moment in time, but a moment of when we were first coming up to an idea of creating something, creating business, doing something differently than I was doing in the investment banking world, to my wife's and their company. Fundamentally, I believe that it's great to start things, but I don't, like you just said, that 70-hour work week, that 80-hour work week. I had just read the 4-hour work week. Like, I only want a 4-hour work week. Like that, I wanted to give up the really secure and very lucrative paycheck, not for wealth. Wealth wasn't my be all end all. It's obviously something that's very important, but it was more for time. Like, how do I want to enjoy my time. I want to, and a lot of times I'll say, like, I want my Tuesday, just every random Tuesday, to be my Tuesday and not somebody else's. So in designing the distillery, it was a lot of hard work in the beginning, because I still had to I didn't win the lottery. So I had to keep my day job for a number of years, for a couple of years for sure, as we're building the brand and doing everything like that. But I knew at one point, it's going to come to a point. So we need to design the structure of it, how trusting. And this is a biggest life lesson I've ever had to learn, is this is your baby. And, at the time, we're putting significant wealth into it, investing into it. So it's your baby, it's your money, it's your name now. Everybody would say, oh, who owns Lucky Bastard? They'd say Cary, because I'm on the news and all this sort of jazz. So it's my reputation, my ego. But at the same time, I need to really, really, really trust and build a team that can allow me to separate myself and remove my time from the business. So still making those key decisions, or being involved in key decisions, but relinquishing control, sort of thing. So very well designed in an idea, not that it's always worked. We've gone through ups and downs, and my business partners have not really been involved in the distillery for a longer number of years than I have. They moved away to a different city, to enjoy a life that they wanted to do something else. And still, we're all involved, and we get together like 2 days ago and have meetings and things like that. But that just changing I want to build something. I want to build something great. But taking your head around, I don't need to be necessarily involved in all the day-to-day decisions, but I need to trust that you can put together the right people that can remove you from the day-to-day grind. And I think that's, to me, I have like so many friends who are very successful entrepreneurs, but they're working 80 hours a week, don't spend time with their family, relationships are not good. They may not talk to their kids often. Whatever their priorities are, I don't know if my priorities ever could be work or success as is expected by other people, that I would give up my family, my relationships, my life, just for the income. Like, I did not want that. It wasn't important to me. So the importance to me is just that time. Like, yeah.
So what you just described, I would say, is, I won't say everybody, but most people okay, is the, if I'm going to create something, how do I get to the, I don't know whether you call it balance or integration, or, because it's easy, as you just described, for most people for it to consume them. You talked about trust. That's not a one off. That's an ongoing, and you're also, as you said, you're trading off maximizing financial wealth for maximizing other things. And so talk a little bit about that, the how you've done that from in an organization. And because it often fails. I know a lot of people who are like, oh my god, I thought I had somebody I trusted, and then it didn't work. And I know Tamara's had challenges, and so it's been I'm sure I'm sure it's been an interesting road. So because I talk
It's
about that, because that's, I mean, you're designing it that way from the beginning was, both incredibly insightful and, and important. Because if you hadn't done that, it would be hard to retro.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
yeah, that the trust thing is, like you said, it's ongoing. It's dynamic, it shifts, it moves. And you may like, and there's a lot of times where you're like, this, oh my God, whole thing is failing. This idea is not good. But it's, people are there. If you have the right people and you just try to, things may not be perfect, but over time, when you start, especially with the hiring people, you start relinquishing a little bit of control, and you kind of test the waters a bit. How do I give up, certain elements of decision making to somebody, and then you see their decisions, what their decisions are going to do, and then you just try, and more, it just builds that trust of things. And things can go sideways, and that is, I mean, that is
What
the
happens
game that
when
you're
they
playing.
do? So yeah, yeah. So tell me what, I mean. Things will. All right. So
Yeah.
give me. You think about some examples, because if that trust falls apart and the thing falls apart, your life model is going to change dramatically.
Oh,
You're gonna, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
You won't be leaving Saskatoon in the
Yeah.
winter. And so just maybe some examples of how you've made people decisions, and then what you've learned, things that worked, things that didn't work,
And
in,
we've made, yeah.
because let me just say, there's a number of people build organizations in order to scale. You built for, although scale was important, you built for a different thing, and a different, I'll call it North Star. So, talk about how that works and where it doesn't work, and what you've learned, that you can share with other people.
Yeah. So our company is technically built to scale. We have a production model that can scale very rapidly and very. I just choose not to. I think one day we will maybe look to sell, or maybe look to have an employee share a buyout, whatever the case may be. Then I think the next generation, or it could be kids that are involved, or whatever the case may be, they'll scale it to whatever degree they need to scale. So scalability is there. It's already built into the premise. My decision, though, is not necessarily that it's a passion project, or just a family business that is just to earn a certain amount of wealth. No, our job is to I think, as creating something, is in building something, is to increase its maximal potential for wealth generation, and building a strong core business. But along the way, and when you're designing it that way, when you're doing a business that way, as well as the idea that no, I'm not gonna be in control of this thing 100%. I still want to have, my feelers out there, and kind of think about that. But there's lots of mistakes that are made. There's the wrong hires. We had a controller, CFO person who was forging checks along the way, that, you don't notice the first, dozen sort of fake checks that are coming out of the bank account. But eventually, 6 months later, we realized, and we had the same person who was doing the finances for our company as well as my wife's company. So it was a double whammy of, trust issues that, you have to put in place. We've had, you have key staff members that, may not be stealing things, but they were stealing time, not doing their job properly, not, falsifying their hours, and stuff like that, and different things like that. So you learn along the way, and it would be so easy to not trust people and say, oh, we need to be more strict with this, that, and the other. And it'd be very easy to go that route. That wouldn't be the model I'd want to go for. I like the idea of get the right people in place. Shit, we made a mistake. We got the wrong people in place. Something bad happened. They stole from us, whatever the case may be. Lesson learned. How do we fix that next time? How do we put controls into place to be able to kind of fix that? And so those are the good points of that, is we learned how to, learn how to do that, and learn how to do that rapidly, that we can still have faith in humanity, that things are going to be going right. And then how do we train people to, and I'm luckiest guy on business owner on earth. I have a general
Luckiest
manager.
bastard.
Yeah, luckiest bastard. Yeah, that I have a really powerful team, that they're so passionate about the business, so passionate about the brand and the products, and their staff. They love their staff. They love, having that control. And so it has been phenomenal, and allowed me to be able to be here in Mexico, to be able to, we have a wonderful family boat in on Vancouver Island, that we spend, the majority of summer and a bit of fall, sailing around, the Pacific Northwest, and that's sort of,
While you have a distillery, which is a very hands-on operating business.
yes,
And so the just thinking about again, a lot of people end up with a general manager and somebody running things. What's the talk a little bit about the relationship that you have there that lets you, because as you said, your North Star is, I'm going to trust people. If things don't work out, I'll find a different person, but I'm not going to shift the culture of the company. So that
yeah,
means also there's an example of behaviors that work and don't. You had the person forging checks. How you dealt with that person shows things to other people. There's also how you create the incentives for the people who are running the business day to day. And so I think you've talked about that. I don't know if there's anything else you
yeah.
want to
I'm just trying to
share.
think. I like, in regards to I think also it's a lot of that trust, or that putting that capability onto somebody to be able to lead something that they don't own. There's only two owners of the company. It's myself and my business partner. To be able to give control, a lot of it too comes with it, positioning of their power, or their, like the C-suite sort of thing. But so our head person is the chief branding officer. So she's not the CEO, she's not the, general manager or the office manager or anything like that. She is in charge of the overall brand and image. So, and part of her duties, though, is literally being the CEO. That's part of that.
Interesting.
So it is that, and it's that passion for, like, we're a manufacturing company, but we're a brand. Like, we are making something that's delicious to drink and super fun packaging and things like that. So we're I kind of look at it as we're a brand inside manufacturing. And so even though she's, the general manager, or somebody who's managing everything, she is just in charge of the brand. And so that brand is manufacturing, it's retail, it's wholesale, it's distribution, it's operations, it's everything added together. And so having that sort of role understood that way, and it same goes with all the other departments, department heads. It's more of a different sort of title or mentality that we put into those positions, that really changes how they, I guess, operate, or how they run their sort
Yeah.
of things. So
So you're still managing the orchestra of those people, or leading the orchestra. You don't have a classic CEO where everybody
no,
else reports to,
yeah,
but you're able to do it from here. It's impressive. I mean, look, my friend, that's, as you well know, I'm sure people have talked to you about this over the time. They're like, how the F do you, how the F
oh
do you
yeah,
make that work?
oh yeah,
So the other thing is, and what you're doing now, and you and I were talking the other day, so you don't historically have a tech background,
no,
right?
no.
Okay. And yet, and
But
yet,
I love tech. Like,
right. And so
I
what have
love
you
it.
done the last couple of years? I mean, you guys said, hey, we're going to build an app, and we're
Yeah.
going to start, or more than one. Your next thing was, without a background in this, you're going to start an app company, a tech company, and now you're doing. So talk a little bit about kind of
Oh,
you haven't given
that's
up the chapter, but
no,
yeah, talk a little bit about the
yeah.
next thing, which,
That's my
that you're doing.
favorite thing.
'Cause-
I love that.
okay.
It's my wife and I, like, absolutely love technology. Not that we're like, nerdy and know how to do anything or anything
No,
like
not
that,
at
but
all. No.
we love that. I love waking up every single day and something new has changed in the tech world. AI that can literally is my best friend. And you have these things. And quite honestly, it was about 3 or 4 years ago. And and Tamara's business is very hands-on. Like she's an interior designer. She is the like not just an interior designer, like she is the queen bee of her design firm that her eye is so acute and she's so good at what she does that she has to make every major sort of design decision when it comes to a commercial or residential property or building or whatever they're doing. So I handed her a business plan about 4 years ago for her birthday. It's like, happy
Yeah.
birthday, honey. Here's a business plan using
You are
yeah.
so sweet.
Yeah, you have this problem in your business, and we kind of knew what her problem was in her business. This is how technology can solve that problem, and that's the greatest thing about technology is it could be literally just a few lines of code that changes a massive problem, right? And so we discovered this problem that she has in her business, which is very, very time consuming, not just for her, but for the entire world of furniture procurement and supplies and things like that. And so we start working on this. And so when all this time is going on is like AI is just coming out, like ChatGPT has just launched. We were in Singapore listening to some big heads from Google talking about AI, the revolution and everything like that. So we're getting this going and we're learning all about, AI and what it can do. And now, so building this project, which is a machine learning and AI massive sort of components. We have a fairly strong and large, well, not large, but large for us. Like there's about 6 people on the text or on the software development side and research scientists and things like that as well. But they're building this like amazing sort of product. And Tamara and I are, we love it, but we want to be hands-on and dirty as well. So now vibe coding has come out, and I don't, know how much you've been involved in vibe coding.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, but I just love watching you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So keep going.
you can literally understand a little bit about coding and how to write software and things like that, but you don't actually have to fundamentally. I'm not technical at all. You don't have to fundamentally know it. You just have to know what you want it to do, right? And the software, the AI is going to write the software and it's going to be ugly and crappy and you got to refix it and all these everything's like that. But you can actually, so Tamara literally built an AI machine learning just by vibe coding. So her MVP for Metrically is the name of the Metrically.design is the name of the software. And
what does it do? What does it do?
So if you can picture that right now, a person's preferences are the most fundamental thing of what consciously makes you want to buy something, right? So basically the machine learning parts of it are that the software has to intrinsically understand you as a perfect person, your preferences, what you like, what you don't like, everything about you, as well as what your space is. So how big is we use this for interior design, how you're doing a living room, how big your room is, what size of couch could fit in here, or the acoustics of it, the materials of it, the stuff that you like and design styles and all that sort of stuff. So that's preference map A, which is literally a machine learning sort of model. Then you have preference map B, which would be machine learning that can embed things onto product. So we can upload a vendor's whole catalog base and have it embedded, and where the AI, so basically a picture of a big spider map of things, can now pull that information, fit it in with the preferences, fit it in with the budget, fit it into delivery models, transportation, and all that sort of stuff, and done very, very quickly and very brilliantly. And you can say, oh, I don't like that, switch it out and something else is going to appear. You can cross-reference it to a bunch of vendors as well. It's just really cool tech. It's very big, and we've applied it to interior design stuff, but it could be applied to anything. So, and basically, we draw on APIs and things through the vendor customer through, we can integrate it into most like Shopify and things like that. So that is all like what we do every day right now. It's like we're here and we're like, it's so much fun.
Well,
And that's one app.
It's
So I got another one
yeah,
too, but
no, but
yeah,
before you do the second app,
yeah,
just as you said, you're not a techie at all, but you hit the key thing is you know what you want it to do. And so
yeah,
you have, in the same sense, you didn't have any background in alcohol and distilling other than as a user, a
yeah,
consumer. And there you go. But now it's just fun to watch and listen and just see how excited you are. So you got that
yeah,
one, you built a team, you guys went out and raised some money, but now you got the second thing you're doing. And so
yeah.
and as you said, this is your Lucky Bastard may be the 4 hours. This is something else.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
this is like our like 80 hours a week. But like
Yeah.
it's like, when you and everybody says that, you don't work a day in your life when you love what you do, right? And building the creating, being an entrepreneur is like I love it. I love building. I love, starting companies. We have, a number of companies that we own and run. And it's so much fun. The tech side, I tell you about this, like the
Yeah.
open claw. I got this
I
open
know. It was
claw. It's on
like,
its
yeah,
own,
we're
it's
sitting
on its own
here in
computer.
early April, but no, stop it. We're sitting here in early April 2026, and Carrie's like, I set up OpenClaw. That's very impressive and cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it lives on I have a Mac in my office and it lives on that. And like every day I talk to it on WhatsApp. It sends me like a whole bunch of stuff every day. It's so funny because it can do anything I can do, right? It can go on it has its own browser like access. It has its phone number and email. And her name
Yeah.
is Callie, and she's awesome. But she spends so much money. I don't like, what are you doing all day? Like, and she built stuff. You're like, oh, I need a CRM, or I need, I want this. Can you build this? I was like, contemplating doing a newsletter. Hey, can you build, like, here's my idea. And when I just talked to her, like, how do you, and do this? And she does that. And there's every day there's something. And I think that OpenClaw, revolutionary. It was almost like ChatGPT coming out, when it came out and you're like, oh my God, I can talk to AI. And that was cool. OpenClaw is, I can get AI to do shit for me, like, which is super cool, as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
and you got a second app you're doing,
Yeah.
and
So I have a boating app that I built basically for me that I'm going to, and it handles all my boating stuff. So all my manuals, documents, trips planning, everything to do with my boat. It itemizes, it embeds, it has AI that can diagnose stuff. It's awesome. Like for somebody who has a boat, it is, oh, it's a game changer. So I built it for me and I've been using it for the past year. And so now I'm going to actually just release it, almost just for the cost of what it costs for data storage, because it's a lot of data you have to store, a lot of
yeah.
and then a lot of AI power that be
Yeah.
able to use it. So anyways, not going to get me rich, but
No,
yeah,
but your point is that's not the point. This is the energy that you get out of this. It's like, I think one of the things you just said is, it's not work.
yeah,
If you, and I forget exactly the phrase you used a minute ago, but it was a great one. And so, yeah, I mean, and so that's one of the things that I just have loved, love about you and you guys is just the energy, the passion, it just comes right out of you about all this stuff. And so many people are, oh my God, I'm afraid of AI and and all these things. And you have very quickly zeroed in on just the power of the enabling. Like you said, I'm not, you're not an engineer, and yet here you are, and tomorrow's not an engineer. And so, that's a great moment. And, and at the same time, you are, you haven't lost touch with your family. I mean, like, one of the things is you talked about, you talked early on about the decisions and some of the people, that kind of lost that. So talk a bit about how the family, how you do that, is the, people say balance. I don't, I'm not balance isn't the right
yeah,
word. Integration is, what someone
yeah.
is. How do you integrate these different pieces and keep the North Star of the, the control you want to have in your life?
Family, and you would know because you've seen our kids their entire lives,
Yeah.
as well as we've seen yours. Our family is our most important thing, and we have a very, very good relationship with we have two kids. So there's Ella, who is 21 years old. She's in 3D animation and design. So she'll likely be an animator of some sorts, or within film or within video games. And she's a very passionate artist. Like, she is the most creative person I've ever met in my life. Complete disaster most of the times, because she's just in a world of art and creating art. And And so she does that both visually, like painting and drawing and things like that, but also animated, like on computer. She's very, very good at that. Then we have Ben, who's, trying to figure out his way. He's in business school right now. He's just turned 19, and so he's in business school right now in Victoria, and actually living on our boat. And Ben is kind of like me. He's very adventurous. Like last summer he decided to go to Japan by himself, and travel around Japan for a few months, and then decided to, I'm not going to go to university back home or somewhere else. We're gonna go to university in Victoria. And oh, by the way, can I live on the boat while I do it?
Can I live on the boat, Dad?
Yeah. So
Can I date clowns?
yeah. Oh my God, that didn't go over so well. Not at
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah. So
And
it's like,
yeah, so the kids
you-
are doing their own thing, but we're so connected to our family, and we travel a lot together. We vacation, we hang out together as much as we can. A big thing with us is we always do almost like 6 days a week for sure, do family dinner together, at some form. So whether it's a big meal at home or going out or going, Samara and I are very social people and very involved in the community at home. So we have lots of, black tie events and charity fundraisers and blah, blah, blah. We drag the kids to kind of everything. We like having that, we can't be together all day, but at least we can share a meal together, find out what's going on, check in. And so we're very close that way. And now that we're all apart, technology, once again, we FaceTime, I'll talk to the kids probably 2 or 3 times a day almost, just about something like, hey, Dad, what about this? Or just checking in, or a family get together. Yeah. So our kids are awesome. Our kids started their own company when they were like, Ben was 12 and Ella was 14. It was a summer project. It's still kind of going a bit, but yeah, they're entrepreneurship. They like, I don't know, they like money. They like getting, building stuff and creating stuff. Yeah. And they're just,
but they're
awesome.
balanced. I think the thing, because the other challenge people often have is you've picked a lifestyle, because every parent is setting a role model of some form or another for their kids. And so you've set a role model, which is probably both aspirational, and a bit challenging, because for every kid wants to be different than their parents, and and kind of be close with their parents at some level. So you guys have done you've done a really good job with kids. But again, with all this stuff, it's one of the things, just you're so refreshing every time I get together with you guys. Like you said, you're very social, you're happy, you're just fun. So looking to wrap it up here, I mean, what if you can look and say, what do you think that are generalizable lessons, okay, for you? Because it's partly what you say to your kids, but but it's what, when someone goes, wow, Cary, you and Tamara, I love the life you've built. What's like, what are the kind of things that you've said a bunch of them here, but I just wanted to, give you a chance to kind of summarize if you can.
I would say that, for most, and success is what you think success is, right? But most of it, I honestly believe that most people judge success by what other people see of them. Right? I'm successful because I, have a Ferrari or something. Like, other people can see that Ferrari and are like, oh, you're successful. I think success comes from whatever you value the most. And are you hitting that goal? Are you hitting those KPIs for what you value? So that could be, for me, in my case, my time, my Tuesday is very important to me. Is my goal of success is am I working on my time? So I might be working a lot, or I might be working little, but I put the stuff in my calendar, and I'm not getting dictated that, which I find very important. But it could be your success is, I would be more successful if I spent more time with my spouse or my kids, or whatever the case may be. It could be that I have, I just keep building wealth and building wealth. And everybody's view of success is going to be different. And to me, as long as you are not viewing your level of success by what other people's expectations are of you, right? That's a very key thing to me. Is, am I chasing this dream because I want other people to, like, in this, like, I've never told this story before. Like, I've never had this kind of conversation about this before. So I talk about, I get invited to talk a lot about business and things like that, but never that, your success is, your time. Like that's important, like that to me, that's an important thing. Where was I going with this train of thought? But yeah, success is going to be measured. Hopefully it's measured under your own circumstances,
Own terms.
not
Yeah.
by somebody else's.
Yeah.
And, there's like I just be passionate about life, be curious. I love the curiosity is my favorite friend. Like I feel like a child sometimes, especially when it comes to tech. I'm like, oh, I need to read all this is so cool. Yeah. But
Yeah.
be curious, have fun, design your life the way you want it and however you want it, not the way somebody else wants it.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And I think I love the way you say that, because that's the premise of the idea of zero to prove is shifting, as you said, from proving things for others. So that, proving things to be, in order to be judged a certain way or viewed by others, to proving things to yourself. And, the other thing one of the guests, an old friend, Peter Allison said, is he said, and having your curiosity overwhelm your fears, because a lot of
that's awesome.
people are, a lot of people, I thought that really hit me are, they get paralyzed by the fear, and that willingness to take those risks, as you said, in pursuit of what it is that's your vision and your dreams, and and doing it for yourself, in which case you can't really fail. I mean, I think the point you made is, if you're doing it for you, you're setting your own bar, and it works. Well, look,
and that's a huge thing, is that just being brave and being not afraid to fail. Like, and honestly, and I tell my kids this all the time, is do all the stuff you want to do now, because failing is not it's not the end of the world. And when you're young and you want to start businesses, or you want to try to shoot the lights out, this is when you don't have to worry about failing. Like you have nothing to worry about, right? So do all that, make all the mistakes, take all the, and even when you're, our age, like shit.
Even when you're older, I mean, I think make the mistakes. I think your point is, if you're doing what resonates deeply with you, truly with you, and you have enough of a safety net, I mean, if you're basically, if you don't have some amount of safety net, your ability to take risks is more limited. But, but once you do, and that safety net is completely personal and subjective, it's not, if I get this. My experience is, to some degree, it never ends. And that's, but you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to build an app. I'm going to install OpenClaw. I'm going to lean into these things. I don't care if I don't do it well. That's not the point. There is no version of failure when your objective is learning and exploring something yourself.
Absolutely.
It's, other than to some degree, failure is giving up. And, and that's within your control. Well, look, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
Fun as always.